Right, just so everyone's warned in advance before you watch tonight's review of the last episode of the Crusade, there's a couple of postscripts and it's going to be quite a long video.
It may be contentious.
It might not be contentious.
Right then, with that little bit of an introduction out of the way and a reminder that there's going to be a few postscripts. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good whatever it is, wherever you happen to be. My name is Paul, I'm also called Knickknack, and I'm the brains behind Knickknack's Daily Teaser. I'll try and put those in up there if you're interested in quizzes. I also talk about a few movies I've seen. I caught West Side Story, Nope, and In the Earth just recently, and only one of them doesn't look like Stanley Kubrick, or at least not with that singing and dancing. I've also got something of an announcement. I'm a man with a YouTube channel at Mr. Cuddy2977. If you're watching this video on it, or my blog, Knickknack's All Peculiar right now, thank you for watching, but thank you to that extra subscriber who took me up to 1,170 subscribers yesterday afternoon. You are very welcome and very appreciated. At any event, making my afternoon is not why I started to make this video. Today is Saturday the 11th of February 2023. Yesterday was, of course, the 10th, and it was the evening I saw the last episode of classic Doctor Who series, The Crusade. The episode in question is called The Warlords, and I wanted to tell you of what I thought of it and the series, possibly a few implicated little bits and bobs as well about the box set it's on. This video will, of course, as always, be up later on tonight, and I look forward to seeing you subscribe, like, and possibly even, leave a comment. At any rate, I saw The Warlords last night, and I wanted to tell you what I thought of it and the box set it rode in on. Episode 4, The Warlords, recaps last week's episode and reminds us that Barbara, Jacqueline Hill, has been taken captive by El Akir, Walter Randall, kidnapped, threatened with an incredibly slow death, until she manages to briefly escape, only to end up in El Akir's harem. Fortunately, whilst there she meets Mamuna, Sandra Hampton, the daughter of Haroon, who'd helped her out in episode 3. Mamuna is grateful to Barbara because, for the latter, manages to tell the former that her family have survived El Akir's machinations. And in return, Mamuna offers to help Barbara get out of El Akir's palace. Ian, meanwhile, William Russell, had been on his way to El Akir's Paris to try and rescue Barbara, but has been captured by bandits and held hostage by the villainous Ibrahim, possibly early Doctor Who's finest comedy bandit. Ibrahim will be happy to let Ian go for a very hefty ransom, and isn't convinced by Ian's protestations of poverty. Given that, and given that Ibrahim has covered Ian in honey and tied him down near a nest of extremely poisonous ants, Ian feels he's justified trying to escape. Back at King Richard's fort, the Doctor and Vicky have had an unfortunate encounter with the Earl of Leicester, John Bay, the man in charge of King Richard's troops, and a man who's just accused the pair of deceiving the King. Something the King, Julian Glover, isn't convinced about. After he's ordered the Earl to ready his troops, he quietly apologises to the Doctor and Vicky. It turns out the Earl was responsible for telling Joanna about the wedding plans. The Doctor thinks things are starting to get sticky and that the pair should discreetly get the hell out of Jaffa.
Jaffa, 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 Jaffa. Jaffa, Jaffa.
Now, what did I make of The Warlords and the Crusade as a whole? And, as I said earlier, the Season 2 box set it rode in on. The actual episode itself is something I can't complain about. It is well made, it's well performed, the cast do their job wonderfully, the audio is perfect, Mark Ayres again, and the story is finished off nicely. It's a fun episode and a fun ending to a fun serial. The fact that The Warlords was a telesnapped reconstruction, I have to admit that episode 2 of The Crusade, The Night of Jaffa, the other reconstructed episode in this presentation didn't impress me. As far as I could see, there weren't a large enough variety of telesnaps used in the episode. That wasn't an issue for the Warlords, I think. In every scene, bar the climactic fight between Haroon and El Akir, there were enough photos to make following the action very easily. I suspect the only thing for me that could have solved that would have been an audio description track, the kind used by the blind to follow what's going on a TV show. That could have helped, I think, but it wasn't something I could find on the Blu-ray. Bar that one particular scene, though, the Warlord makes better use and more frequent use of a variety of telesnaps than does the Knight of Jaffa. Granted, I would rather see animated reconstructions of this story, the kind done for The Reign of Terror and Invasion. To be honest, I'd rather see the entire series, all 4 live-action broadcast episodes, given the age of this story and the fact that, to the best of my knowledge, it wasn't sold to the Middle East. I believe that's unlikely. Basically, there's less material to be recovered. But granted I'd prefer to see an animated version of the story, and as things stand, this is a well-done version of an entertaining story. As for the box set itself, it's got to be said the collected Season 2 box set is another, overall, good collection. At least I felt so, generally speaking. I gather there's been fuss about some of the extras that feature in this particular Blu-ray cut of the season. Ones originally on the DVD versions of the stories in the set have been dropped or moved. Offhand, there was an interview with Caroline Ford called Suddenly Susan that originally came with a DVD version of Planet of Giants and is now part of the Dalek Invasion of Earth extras. Why that is, I don't know, but I suspect the people that put this together felt it was more relevant in the latter rather than the former. I'm assuming that the rest of any moved extras have been moved for exactly that same reason. They're more relevant with DVD A than they are with Blu-ray B. So that's my assumption there. I can also only assume that the dropped extras are ones that the BBC has lost or hasn't been able to relicense. Or more likely, I think, has chosen not to relicense on the grounds of cost. I personally ripped the DVD copies of many of the older stories as and when I got the chance, so I've not personally lost out. I've still got those DVD missing extras, but for somebody fairly new as a fan coming to this sort of collection, that would be irritating. I can see that quite clearly from here. I'm also aware, cost-wise, and this I think is relevant, I am very aware that there are a lot of stories from these early years. There were a lot of stories in each season in the early days of Doctor Who. Season 2 has 9 stories, over 9 discs, and 39 episodes. Quite a lot, compared to, say, Season 8, Pertwee's second or third, off the top of my head, which had 5 stories, over 25 episodes, over a total of 8 discs. Season 18, Baker's last season, had 7 stories, over 28 episodes, and 7 discs, and a bonus disc, again for a total of 8 discs. And it strikes me most of the collections that I've purchased are again 8 or possibly 9 discs at the very most. It strikes me that 8 to 9 discs per set, and with only so many hours of extra features, is all that the BBC's prepared to pay for. I can understand that. They're a business, they have to be careful with money and what they spend. To me, that kind of makes sense of at least 3 glaring omissions. Season 2 consists of Planet of the Giants, Dalek Invasion of Earth, The Rescue, The Romans, The Web Planet, The Crusade, The Space Museum, The Chase, and The Time Meddler. Now, in earlier box sets, ones with less stories, each story would be accompanied by plenty of extras. There's a very good documentary about David Whittaker, the writer of this story, included with this particular disc. Each story would also be accompanied by a goggle box style watch along called Behind the Sofa. It's got cast and crew of the classic series replacing the members of the public in the Channel 4 show. In case you've not come across Gogglebox, if you're outside of the UK, it's a Channel 4 TV show. It gets members of the public in their own homes being recorded watching TV and talking about the show while they're doing so. The Behind the Sofas, this series equivalents, are very well done. They're very educational, they're informative, and they are incredibly bloody funny as well sometimes. Janet Fielding, Tegan, in particular, is bloody hysterical. Season 2's lineup of her, Sarah Sutton, and Wendy Padbury, Zoe from the Troughton years, and Nissa from the Peter Davison era, the 80s era, make this box set worth the money all by themselves. They really are quite a hysterical team. If you've ever read any of Terry Pratchett's Discworld's novels, I'm saying three names here: Nanny, Granny, and Magrat. Go fill in the blanks there. At any rate, those Behind the Sofa watch-alongs are very well worth the money, and in earlier sense, there's one for every story. Except, in this season, in Season 2, 3 stories in this box set: Planet of Giants, The Crusade, and The Space Museum didn't have a Behind the Sofa. Why those 3 episodes don't have that watch-along, I do not know. But again, I am assuming the cost of production for 9 of these things, hiring the cast, hiring the studio, hell, paying the rent and paying the electricity bill would have been a major factor. And, to be quite honest with you, in an otherwise fine box set, missing out those three very specific extras is like stepping on a loose paving slab. You're tripping over. Season 2 is a great set, but those 3 missing extras, they're noticeably gone. Now, with all that said, what did I make of the Crusade and the Warlords? Yes, I enjoyed this last climactic episode, and yes, I've enjoyed the Crusade, the series as a whole. Granted, I preferred animated reconstructions, but as a whole, it's a fairly good series. Yes, I will be watching the anniversary specials when they air in November, so keep an eye out on my YouTube channel and my blog. I will be posting stuff to them when I watch them, but for now, I'm going to be doing something of a change in direction. Today is Saturday night, you knew that already. Tomorrow is Sunday night, you'd guessed that. And, given I caught the first episode last week, I will be catching Game Changer, episode 2 of For All Mankind's 3rd season, and we'll have my written review of it and my video review of it up by Monday, the 13th of February, 2023. Hopefully, I will see you then. Hopefully, you've hit like, share, and the subscribe button, and hopefully, I'll be seeing you later. Right, as I've said, I'd have rather seen an animated version of this story, or rather something on the lines of Invasion or the Reign of Terror or the 70s era Sharda. In other words, with the missing episodes, just the missing episodes, replaced by animated reconstructions. And I feel that the BBC should have released it as a separate DVD or Blu-ray. Then, much as they did with Season 70's Sharda, they should have re-released it with the relevant season box set. I don't know if there's a good business case for that, but that, frankly, would have been my personal preference. Do it as an animated reconstruction first, then do a re-release. Right, as a second and further postscript, I have one doubt about those animations, and it's something I mentioned in my review of the first episode of The Crusades. As with quite a few British shows back then, the Crusade features, because they didn't look or couldn't get people of colour or actors of colour at the time, they cast a few white actors in blackface when playing people of colour. It's very noticeable in the line, the first episode, especially as the line has black extras, black British extras, playing assaulted spear carriers. Would that be done today? Well, I bloody well hope not. I really do. I just don't like the idea of blackface. Partly because I think it's insulting to people of colour, but partly also because it's stupid. There are enough, at least I hope there's enough, people of colour, black and brown and yellow actors who could play these roles in the British acting pool. At least I hope there are. I'm also very aware that the animators of The Abominable Snowmen, which I reviewed recently.
It's 22 hours.
Thank you, Katie. Drew the Tibetan characters as if they had originally been played by East Asian actors, or actors of East Asian origin. Yes, I feel that represents what the BBC would do today were they casting the show today, and I think that's what the animators intended to represent. But I've also got to ask, and this is after seeing episode 1 of The Crusade, I have to ask, is turning a bunch of white 60s actors into animated modern Asian characters, is that just a digital version of blacking up? I suspect it is, but I also suspect that we're damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't. Right, just in case you didn't know, the actor that plays Ibrahim, the villainous, amusing comedy bandit, is an actor called Tut Lemkow. It's spelled Tutte, Lemkow, Lemkow, and I do apologise to him if he's still around, because I don't know how to pronounce it. But in case you've seen this episode of The Crusades and you're wondering where you've seen him before, yes, he was the Fiddler on the Roof in the 1960s Topple film, Fiddler on the Roof. Go catch it, it's a great film.